You're listening to Kentucky Running, presented by John's Run Walk Shop in Lexington. Help others find this show by rating, reviewing, and subscribing in your podcast app. This episode is sponsored by Curex Insoles.
Hey runners, Matt Reno here. Thanks for tuning in to Kentucky Running. By now, you've probably heard the big news. John's Bluegrass Racing Company is adding Run the Bluegrass to its race lineup. We are so pumped to have this beloved Central Kentucky event on our calendar. And if you want to get it on your calendar for 2025, head to runthebluegrass.org. Registration is now open. On today's episode, John's Run Walk Shop General Manager Riley Marshall talks with Run the Bluegrass founder Eric Patrick Marr. They talk about Eric's decision to move on from the race he spent years building up and how he feels about passing the baton to us. And they're also going to answer some questions that have come up about what Run the Bluegrass traditions are staying in place, as well as some of the positive changes that are coming in 2025. If you're a fan of Run the Bluegrass, you're not going to want to miss this conversation with Eric, and it starts now.
Eric, it is great to have you today. You and I have talked extensively for the past couple of months behind the scenes. People didn't know about it. So I guess the first thing we should probably tell them is how this even started to come about.
So I've done Run the Bluegrass for 14 years, and just in my heart of hearts, I was very conflicted. And COVID definitely affected this because COVID made things so much more difficult for me. Even before COVID, inside myself, I was looking for what's my next thing in life. Because at that point, I had done Run the Bluegrass for 10 straight years. And for me, 10 years of doing one thing is forever. And so that's when I basically started with developing Race Passport in a very small level back in 2020. And then it got up and running. We started using it for Run the Bluegrass in 21, again in 22, 23, 24. And so it just came a time where I was like, I want to venture out into what's next for me. But I don't necessarily want to leave everything behind me, especially like my streakers, all my friends in Run the Bluegrass. It was not some kind of black and white easy thing. It's very difficult because it's like all I've known and all I've done, for the last 14 years.
I can imagine you built something really beautiful.
And at the time, I didn't really think anybody was interested in buying it. So when you reached out to me, I was actually like, whoa, I never thought about John's before. And it was like, that would be perfect actually, because you guys are local, the running community inside and out. You've done Iron Horse, you know how to put on bigger races, all the ins and outs of logistics and planning and marketing, and you have a staff, which is, I had a very small staff, me and Rachel and then a couple others contracts seasonally, but you guys have a whole staff. And then you guys are all about using Race Passport, which is I've put a ton of time and money into Race Passport.
Well, and that's something we're really excited about is you've built a great system. We're moving all of our races there.
And I love that because that gives me a chance now to work with an outside organization like you guys to get your all's feedback on, okay, because I built it for what I think is good and efficient. Now let's get like a guinea pig in here, so to speak, and let's make it good for another organization.
Well, and that was, I think, something we both kind of discovered in our initial conversation. I knew you had a great race. I knew you'd built something beautiful, and I didn't want to see it go. I think in our initial conversation, we talked for almost an hour and a half on the phone and just really hit it off on, your style being very similar to ours, really wanting to take care of the racers, make it something special and not just have another event.
I think the main question that people have asked me over the last 2 or 3 months since you and I have been talking is, will Run the Bluegrass be the same under the new owners and that kind of stuff? And then it gets down into the levels like streakers or tours or medals or swag or blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but that's the main question is, will it be the same? And I know you and I have talked. I even talked to your mom, Melody, and
yep,
how you guys took over the running store and really wanted to keep as much of it the same.
And that was kind of where we started in our conversations was, would we want to keep it the same? And the answer is absolutely. The reason we were interested in working with you on this and making sure we could continue this event going forward was to make sure that Lexington had that same energy in this spring race. So that is the true goal there. We are definitely trying to keep everything as much as possible the same as it's always been. Run the Bluegrass is a really special event here, and we don't want to mess with that. So along those lines, like you said, the first question we've been getting is, are we continuing the streakers? And the answer is absolutely, wholeheartedly. We are continuing the streakers. That is something that makes this race really unique, and keeping those gifts for streakers the same.
My logic was always, back in the very beginning when I was really starting Run the Bluegrass in like 2012, 13, 14, my take on things was Lexington as a city is not the size of a Cincinnati, a Louisville, Indianapolis, Columbus, Dayton. So you can't just push a button and expect thousands and thousands of people to come, because Lexington doesn't have that population base built in. So you can't compete on just being the same as everybody else. And that's where a lot of these ideas came from, like the streaker gifts, because I never heard of the other ones offering these physical gifts and thank you gifts to loyal customers who come back year after year. And a lot of people don't necessarily even go back to the same race year after year, because you kind of knock it off your bucket list and you go on to the next location. So I really wanted the streakers to sort of be a way of me saying thank you to them, but also give people a reason to come back year after year. Make it different from the other races where it is become an annual tradition. Bring your friends, make a girls' weekend out of it. Really trying to make Run the Bluegrass different from those other mega big races, simply because it is different, and it's just not going to be the same as a big city race.
Now, had you always done virtual options for racers in the past?
No, not until COVID.
That's how it was for us too. And we found that we really have a lot of people interested in doing that. And that is something we will do this year for all distances, is have a virtual option. And we will be honoring that for streakers as well. We're a little behind the ball in terms of opening this year. So we're thinking there will be people that have already signed up for another spring half marathon. Doing this virtual option allows them to still continue their streak and still participate in the race in a slightly smaller way.
I will say, physically running through the horse farms and those quiet country roads in and around Fayette County, Woodford County, there's nothing like it. And I've run, just like probably you have, I've run in so many places around the country, even like along the beach or along the California coast or along mountains. It's like, you can get some pretty areas for sure, but running through the quietness and the stillness of Central Kentucky's horse farms, I think, is unrivaled. So we've offered virtuals, but yeah, it's like, if you really want to take it in,
it's special here. Yeah.
I've always thought it's like a spiritual experience out there in that quiet. It's so quiet. I think that just really helps you like tune into yourself and your own thoughts and emotions and your own body.
That's how our Iron Horse half marathon is. It's out in Midway. You're getting to run past the horse farms. It's quiet. And since we're speaking about Iron Horse, I think we get to break the fun news here, which is we're partnering these two races up. They will be the Horse Country Classic, which is very exciting. Anybody who does those will get a special medal for racers who did both. We're trying to bring a lot of the good things from Run the Bluegrass to Iron Horse, and a lot of the good things from Iron Horse to Run the Bluegrass. So since we were just talking about those virtual racers, one of the things we do for the Iron Horse is, if a virtual racer has an elevation profile in their race that's greater than the Iron Horse course, we actually give them a special prize as well. We call it our Hill Crusher mug. It is usually a coffee mug. That's probably what we'll do this year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know this.
It's very fun.
Yeah.
One of the drawbacks is it makes it a little bit more difficult for people to decide whether they want to do it in person or do the virtual, because the mug is very cool. But it allows people to, who are doing the virtual option, to still have that kind of fun additional element. And we'll be doing that with Run the Bluegrass as well.
Well, that's really cool. That's another thing that I always thought was like, if you live in Indiana or Ohio or Illinois or whatever neighboring states, like your virtual run might be the same distance, but it's not going to be the same as our hills.
Right.
And so you're doing this, but if you're in North Carolina, you're mountains, or even West Virginia.
Yeah. For those people who do both races, we are offering a 20% discount if you sign up for both the Iron Horse and Run the Bluegrass. I want to take a quick break to tell you about Kentucky running sponsor Curex insoles, available at John's Run Walk Shop. If you're a runner or other kind of athlete, you want to do what you can to prevent injuries. An easy way to do that is with a pair of insoles. When you run, you're exerting up to 3 times your body weight on your feet and joints. Curex insoles reduce that stress on your joints. Less pressure on your body means decreased pain and increased performance. Curex Run Pro insoles are supportive but also soft and flexible. And they help manage moisture to keep your feet and shoes fresh. They come in 3 profiles, high, medium, and low, to fit your arch type. So next time you're in John's Run Walk Shop, ask us to check out your arches and knee alignment so we can help you find the right pair of Curex Run Pro insoles for you. Yeah, so the small changes we are going to be making will be, we're moving that start time up to 7. That'll help us beat the heat, also beat some traffic problems on the way out. Traffic flow in, we are opening an additional route into Talon this year and doubling the parking. So we're going to be doubling that parking space, kind of have 2 teams going.
I know it was difficult for us, but that was expected because there's only one entrance. So if you're going to have 2 ways coming in, I do think that's great.
And yes, we are keeping the course the same. So it is the same course as last year. Another big thing, we are increasing post-race activities with lots of food trucks. We're hoping to have some fun kind of events you can opt to join in if you'd like after the race, so that you can hang out a little bit longer, see people finish the race, wait for your friends, stay and drink wine. That's always fun to do at Talon. Talon is beautiful. It's one of the really huge perks of this race is there's a really, really beautiful start and finish.
I know there was some people who were maybe a little bit disappointed when we had to move away from Keeneland. That was such a tradition. But I will say, and maybe I'm biased because I grew up out there at Taste Creek Road near Talon. I think, especially because it's kind of a hidden secret, even amongst locals who live in the area, because most people don't really go down to that southern part of Fayette County. No major development, no major changes over decades and generations. And so it's like really preserved well, I feel like. Running wise, I always wanted to have a race back there, but the road, there's no real shoulders, so you can't just go for a group run out there because it's not safe. But having it closed, like, it's a really big treat to be able to run on those roads down there. For people to take advantage of that and realize that, yeah, Talon and Keeneland are different, but man, their actual running experience, I think, is first class. I think it's the best you'll ever have. I really do feel that way.
As somebody who also grew up on those roads, running and biking those roads, and somehow I'm miraculously still here to talk about it.
Right.
I have to agree. It's a really unique opportunity to be able to run those roads. They really do highlight the bluegrass. And I think that's what makes another thing that really makes Run the Bluegrass so special. You see the bluegrass for sure.
So last year when I was doing it with first year at Talon, I kind of changed our tagline a little bit. I started using the phrase quintessential bluegrass country, because I really do feel like the Long Road, Walnut Hill, Jacks Creek, Spears, Taste Creek Road, I really do. Because we would drive the course multiple times, setting everything up and getting everything planned. It's like, man, this really is part of bluegrass country land. And you're only a couple miles from the river. There's so much history dating back to the very beginning, really, of Kentucky, of America, through the Kentucky River and everything, through Appalachia. And like, it really is a special place that I think as time goes on, people will begin to appreciate it even more than they already do.
I mean, even Talon, the house at Talon, the tasting room, actually used to be one of our governor's houses. I mean, even the property itself is very, very historic.
Yeah. So now that we have this thing going, one of my next moves is I'm going to contact my chartered bus company, see if they have a bus or 2 available for that Friday. I guess that would be May 16th, because I want to go on one of those tours. I've always wanted to go. I've never been able to because I've always been working Expo, but I want to go be a tour host on the bus because that's a party right there. So.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's one thing that I'm really excited for you for personally is you get to go have some of the fun that you've generated in this race over the years. But yeah, regarding those tours, the parties, the VIP access, we will be having all of those things this year. We're still solidifying some of those details and we'll get those out a little bit later.
Those are always my favorite parts, these little ancillary events that we built around the actual race, because that's when I get to actually hang out with people and get to know. I mean, all of my life's friends came from Run the Bluegrass over the years. A lot of it because of Facebook interactions, but then that turned into they would often come to these extra parties and tours and whatnot. And, you're having a drink with them, you're getting to know them and you become friends. It's like, then pretty soon you're flying out to go visit them in California, or you're driving to St. Louis to hang out with them. Or like, I love these little sidebar events that we put on.
I've always liked those because they really embody the spirit of running.
Yeah, exactly.
We run with people across the nation. It's a great way to make friends. I've got the same thing. We've got people in California and Boston that we run with when we travel.
And that's the whole point is, life, I think, is best when you have these good friends that you share these moments with and share these experiences with. And so being able to facilitate that, I feel, has always been, I feel like, my own goal with Run the Bluegrass. Not so much just about the mechanics of putting one foot in front of another, but how that fits into the broader scope of life and happiness. And 99% of my friends are because of the race over the last 14 years.
My friends are from the running stores. I get it. I completely get it.
I want to talk about John's for a minute because I do feel like preserving Run the Bluegrass into the future, if it went to someone who didn't have deep roots in the community, it's like that could be a question. Would Run the Bluegrass actually survive down the road?
Yeah. And survive in a way that made sure it was still Run the Bluegrass at its heart.
Yeah. Yeah. The fact that John's has been around since 78, so I guess 46.
We're 46, yeah. 46 as of November.
You guys aren't going anywhere. You had the good backbone, the good roots, the foundation underground because of all the years John's has been around. You guys have been, your mom, Melody, was the accountant for John's for 12 years.
20 years.
It's like decades and then your whole life was in Lexington. So it's like, if anybody's going to take care of it, you'll put your own spin on it. You'll put your own fingerprints on it, and you should. That's what I would do. But Lexington's ins and outs. The people. The culture, and so I feel like it's in the best possible hands it could be in. That makes me happy. Everybody in Lexington knows the name John's Run and Walk Shop. Everybody, even my dad, who doesn't even run, but he walks a lot. So he buys his shoes from you guys, and he has it for my whole life.
Well, thank you.
I think that's a feather in the cap of Run the Bluegrass now, is that it's going to be even more owned by local people with local roots that go really deep.
Thank you. Thank you very much for saying that. That is high praise, and that is our goal. If we're taking this over, we want to care for it. Keep it all the things that make it local.
Yeah. I mean, just like you do your own brands. Yeah. You care about the name brand John's from a shoe sales point of view, and then you race it. So it's like you have care built in. It's not like it's some whimsical thing. Oh, we're going to start doing this race. Like, no, you have a lot of care and attention to detail built in over decades. And so I feel like that's going to play out well, I feel like. And I love the combining it with the Iron Horse. I did Iron Horse several times. I ran it like in 2011, 12, 13, 14. And then several years later, we would go and set up a cheer station at your all's like halfway point. People love Iron Horse. Midway is so idyllic. It really is so quaint and cool. It's my favorite town in America, little town.
Beautiful.
Getting even more people from the Run the Bluegrass network to be aware of Iron Horse. And then to get that spring and fall in Central Kentucky are the best times of year. I love the fact that you're going to be bundling them and putting them together in special metal form. It's something we as runners talked about for 10 years, like 14 years. And I'm like, man, somehow or another we should combine these two together somehow or another.
Eric, thank you so much again for being with us here today. We have had a great time working with you so far, and I'm glad people finally get to know that we've been working together.
I'm really glad it's finally happening.
I know. It's going to be fun. It's going to be really, really fun.
All right, y'all. See you guys later.
Thanks for listening to this episode. We've been having a lot of fun working with Eric behind the scenes on getting Run the Bluegrass up and running for 2025, but it's even more fun sharing the news with the public. So again, head to runthebluegrass.org to sign up for the race, which is happening on May 17th. You can also visit johnsbluegrassracing.com to learn more about the Iron Horse and the other races we're bringing you in the coming year. It's going to be a great year for running in Kentucky. I'm Matt Reno. Please help others find the show by leaving a rating and review, and share this episode with your running buddies so you can get a crew together for the inaugural Horse Country Classic. Keep moving, and we'll talk again soon on Kentucky Running.